everyone. Welcome to a rhythmic edition of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who don't got rhythm, the Brent.
Hey, I was in college band.
That doesn't mean anything.
I was in band way longer and far more successful than you have.
That still doesn't mean you got rhythm. They weren't more successful. My band was the man. So, if you joined us last week, we spun the wheel. We made the deal, spun the wheel, get it? And this week, after it almost flew out of the wheel, it was so in demand to get played.
It wanted to play.
We're going to be tackling rhythm games.
Yes.
Rhythm games, a more modern concept of games.
Absolutely.
Something that, and when I did a little research into the history, which we'll get into in a minute, it doesn't go back as far as I would have guessed, to be honest with you.
I honestly thought, especially with more electronic board games out there like Simon, which I guess is not really a rhythm game, but sort of is a rhythm game, because you feel the rhythm as you go.
Yeah, but you don't have to be rhythmic when you push the buttons. You can be like burp, burp, burp. You don't have to go boop, 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 bow, bow. You don't have to do any of that.
I don't think any game allows you to do that, but
that's the jazz.
Anyway,
version.
yeah, I was really surprised that rhythm games is a relatively new concept in gaming.
Yeah, it's wacky. It's wacky. Now, we've played quite a few rhythm games, which we'll get into here in a moment. So, just for fun, I looked at the briefest of history of these rhythm-type games. Ars Techia had an excellent article, which I'm going to be referencing to go through these. So, now, get this. The first quote-unquote rhythm game that they came upon, 1987. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
And this was a game for the NES, believe it or not, and it was called Dance Aerobics. And it used that godforsaken power pad.
Yep.
Now, explain to the folks that haven't seen it what the power pad is, Brent.
A power pad is basically a large numbered keypad that you step on. Yeah. Numbered 1 through 9, much like an old telephone pad, 3x3 grid that, excuse me, you would use as button presses to do. Mostly it was used in like track and field events where you would button smash but run in place to do it. And then it does have some of the other games like rhythm games like the one you're talking about now.
Yeah, so Dance Aerobics, in Japan known as Dance Studio, it was way out of in front of the field, but it didn't really get a lot of action back in the day. I've never heard of it, to be completely honest with you. And it was the last game of this type that was really released. Now, I'm going to go with a caveat. This whole brief history here. You could go back and you could say rhythm games. I mean, for example, you'll recall the Mario game for the Super Nintendo that had the piano with it.
Right.
And there are other games that the whole rhythm game thing, it's sort of a amorphous hard concept. There's no hard and fast rules to say what is a rhythm game. So there could be games that had musical cues, for example, that I wouldn't necessarily say were rhythm games, but they could be, some people might.
And sure, and there were certainly games that had rhythm concepts that weren't just the game itself.
Sure. So, moving forward almost 10 years, all right? So, in 96, you had the release of a game. Now, I remember when this game came out because it was a big deal. I mean, I don't know how well the game did, but I remember seeing a lot of commercials for it, and even playing it. It was a game called Parappa the Rapper.
Yes.
You remember Parappa? 96, that seems like forever ago that the Parappa the Rapper came out, but 96 doesn't seem like that long ago to me.
Well, it is. I mean, you're talking just a few generations ago console-wise, and 96, I guess what is that, 20-some years ago at this point?
Yeah, I did.
So it's back there, but really, when you think that video games stretches back to the 70s, 40 years ago, halfway through its lifespan is pretty recent.
Now, did you ever play Parappa the Rapper?
Absolutely,
yeah. And what did you think of it?
It was a fun game. It had good music. It had fun characters. And that's really what made it memorable.
It has a lot in common with the game you did this week.
Pretty much, yeah. The characters in it, and I mean, the gameplay itself is nothing special. Even back then, I didn't think it was anything exceptionally special. I guess really I didn't even think about it at the time. but being that it is basically a pioneer of rhythm games, it was something special.
And the thing, something else about it, it was very fresh.
Yes.
It had rap, which was on the rise at that point, and it was good. The tunes were good, catchy. You sort of were making parappa do the rapping, with your but that was cool.
Yeah.
And you're right. It wasn't like it didn't blow your mind, but it sort of did. It was a very interesting game. And so
what it reminded me a lot of?
What's that?
The old Laserdisc games, where you input a set of commands, and if you get it right, you get to go on to the next segment.
Sure. So in '98, the sequel came out, which I also played, Jammer Lammy, which was very similar to Parappa the Rap with a kind of a different cast.
I did not play this one.
I don't have a whole lot of memory of this, but I do remember the game, and I remember playing it. Now you can't go into rhythm games without talking about Beat Mania. Have you ever played Beat Mania in the arcade?
Absolutely.
It had turntables and it had a mixing board. It was sort of like it had a more larger version of what that is. And I never played it, but I did see it in the arcade one time. And I never saw it anywhere else.
Yeah,
I saw it one place.
In fact,
it was a big machine. Yeah.
I played it at a
Really?
Dave and Buster's up in Cleveland. I think it was one of the Cleveland locations. No, it was the upper part of Columbus. Way past that game's prime.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, within the 2000s.
So pretty much when this game came out, the genie was out of the bottle, as they say. And so you got stuff like DDR, Dance Dance Revolution. You got Guitar Freaks and Drum Mania, which I've seen all of these. I'd say of the three, obviously, Dance Dance Revolution was phenomenal success.
Oh, by far the most popular, yeah.
I recall the state of West Virginia buying a bunch of Dance Dance Revolution console games and putting them in all the schools to get the kids healthy.
Yeah.
Remember they hearing about that?
Yep.
And it sort of made national news, and it's not the worst idea. If you've ever played these games, I mean, you're cutting a rug. It's not, and they're not easy, but they're not as brutal as the old Power Pad games.
Oh well, it helps when you have good buttons. One of the largest problems with the Power Pad was the buttons, and it sucked. So you could be doing something and just not register.
And that's the worst of a game like that.
But the DDR ruled the arcades, had hundreds of sequels, it felt like. I mean, it was actually dozens.
It took a while for all four of those games to kind of get over in the States. Like I saw all of these in the arcades at one time or another, but I never... Drum Mania, I think I saw. That's the one I'm not sure I've seen.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw Drum Mania over
They
here.
weren't super over. Even DDR wasn't over at first, but eventually something clicked.
Yeah.
Because I saw it everywhere. Konami had a couple. They released Rock Revolution and Karaoke Revolution. Again, everything, all the rhythm game stuff got console ports.
Yeah.
At the time, so you saw those all over the place. Now, in Japan, the rhythm games were like super huge. Over here, they were just kicking up, right? And so you had a couple games over in Japan that were big hits that did get released here, which were Get-to-Roo Man and, of course, Space Channel 5. The funny thing about both these games is neither one of them were that successful in the States. I mean, they had their following, but they weren't mega successful. And in Japan, they were super mega successful games. So, flash forward a couple years. I'll turn the page here. And you get a game that I've owned this game, actually, for the GameCube, Donkey Konga.
Yep.
When it came with a couple Congo drums.
Yep.
Now, me and the kid have played this sometimes. That's a pretty fun game, too. It took a good license, and they ran with it, didn't they?
It's a very simple game. It's a very simple game, but it does what it does well. And it's not just the top of the drums. You hit the sides, and then, you do that kind of thing. But it's a very simple game. Simple concept, I should say.
Now, this game here that they mentioned in this article, I never thought much of these games, but apparently they were gangbusters in Europe. I mean, we had them here, and that was in 2004. Sony began releasing games in the SingStar series. Remember SingStar?
Yep.
I always heard these were super popular, and they released 1 million of them.
Yes.
But me and none of my friends played them.
Yeah. They were outside our circle.
Yeah, there were tons, but I mean, I know I'd heard over and over how popular these were in Europe. So I don't know why that one caught on. I couldn't tell you. So it was time for the big dogs to hone into view. There's a little studio called Harmonix. They put together a game called Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Now, Guitar Hero, the first time I ran across it, it came out for the PlayStation 1, I believe, and the Xbox. It's where I think I first saw Guitar Hero. And it really did change a lot of the aspects and popularity in that in that genre, the plastic instrument genre, if you will. Do you remember? Did you play Guitar Hero when it first came out?
I played Guitar Hero in the arcades. I think that's the first place.
It came in the arcades after it had been home. I know that.
Did I play that? I don't know if I played that before I played Rock Band or not. I knew of it. I guess the concept didn't really appeal to me at the time. But I remember playing it in the arcades at movie theaters.
Yeah.
So I don't know the exact timeline there. It's all kind of a blur.
This game went bananas. It sold 1.5 million copies. Like I said, it's also, I think it's the only guitar game you can get on the original Xbox. I do remember that because I was looking for some at the time. Now get this. They went crazy 8 bonkers with the Guitar Hero. And so the way that they expanded it was just different versions, all right? So you had Guitar Hero 2, which I played that one a lot more than the first one. You had Guitar Hero Rock the 80s, Guitar Hero Legends of Rock, Guitar Hero Aerosmith, Guitar Hero World Tour. I played probably all these at some point. Guitar Hero Aerosmith, and I'm not the biggest Aerosmith fan. I didn't like that one a whole lot, but I it was there. I played it. So this was a huge franchise that was spawned with Guitar Hero. So you know what that means? Time for someone to come out and best it. All right. Well, so in 2006, this is interesting, but I'd forgotten about this. MTV purchased Harmonix. They bought them, lock, stock, and barrel, because MTV wanted to be a player, and they wanted to give them some. They wanted to give them some of that sweet rhythm action. And so, you know what that meant? It was time to release a little game called Rock Band. Now I think we were in the Rock Band gimmick right on Jump Street.
Right at the beginning. Yeah.
You or Jamie one had that thing pre-ordered, I believe. And I remember playing it for the first time. I remember the very first song I sang, because no one else would sing, was Jukebox Hero. I remember, and just going up there and getting it. Jukebox Hero! And then once I humiliated myself, more people were more than happy to go up and take their turn at humiliating themselves. Rock Band was an interesting concept in rhythm games because it added instruments and singing. You had the guitar, plus you had the drums, plus you had the singer
and the bass.
So you had all these different people, 4 people playing at once to try to keep in sync, and it was a big sensation at the time, wasn't it? I mean, everybody loved it. Now, your rig for Rock Band, was that Rock Band 1 that you got it for? Or was that the second Rock Band with all the?
No, I had the light show and fog kit for Rock Band, which I don't believe it was the first one. I believe it was it might have even been the third one. But yeah, we would have, that's also when they had keyboards and everything else. So we had a whole room full of people rocking out with our plastic fake instruments, room filled with fog and light shows going off.
I remember the very first song that we ever played with your fog machine was Rush, The Trees.
Yeah, and it never got better.
And it never did, because the room, that song is great anyway, and the room filled, it was like you were playing a gig in like Mexico City.
Yeah.
I mean, it was smog everywhere, and you're trying to see the screen, and you're
it was.
We were laughing, and it was. I mean, the atmosphere you get from this light show was pretty cool. It was pretty awesome. Rock Band was a real big hit, and of course, aside from the fact that it sort of dethroned Guitar Hero as the king of the arcade, it also did. It really did something to the business of fake instruments.
Yeah,
I mean, before Guitar Hero was doing okay, this thing blew the roof off that. And so, if you go to any Goodwill or Salvation Army store in America right now, you can always be guaranteed to find some fake plastic instruments for sale. I've picked up quite a few in my collection here.
It got to the point where Goodwill said, "Don't send us and don't try to pawn these off on us anymore. We will not take any more," because they had so many on the shelf.
It's funny because eventually you got, of course, you had different grades of these things, and eventually you had companies making wooden full-size guitars, real guitars.
Yeah.
Our buddy Chad has one. I don't know, do you or Jamie have any of the wooden ones?
Jamie has one of the real ones with actual strings.
Yeah, and that's
as well.
So these are crazy popular. I know it was popular with us long after everyone else got sick of it because
we still play it today.
I played it last weekend. It was great, and there's no better game to have a few pints, a few nips of the old booze, and then go in there and do some liquored up Rock Band. One of my favorite activities, if that's your bag. So anyway, that was a mega hit. It spawned the sequel, Rock Band 2, and that spawned the sequel, Rock Band 3, and
Band 4.
Among other things, including the game that I'm covering this week. Now, Brent, talk to the folks about the game that Jamie had that lets you actually learn how to play the instruments. You use real instruments on it. What was that called?
One of the things that people got picked on, I suppose, for lack of a better term, was everyone was playing these fake instruments. And if you had a fake instrument, why don't you just learn the real thing? Well, eventually they did that. I believe the game is called Rocksmith, and you have a real guitar, real strings that you play with a rhythm game, and it teaches you chords and strings and rhythm and strumming, and it teaches you how to play real guitar, which I guess is really the natural evolution.
And that was something that they introduced in I think it was Rock Band 3, where it was you could learn how to, for example, you could have pro level drums and pro level synthesizer. They added synthesizer to the was it the third one that got?
I believe it was third,
and which they dropped stupidly. But so you even had keyboards at the end. You had a ton of stuff. You could have 3 mics simultaneous, and it was great. We had a lot of fun with Rock Band. So, now this is not a complete list of all the games, rhythm games. This is just hitting the high points. I remember a couple other games, and they haven't mentioned here. Wii Music has some rhythm elements too. If you ever played that,
it's horrible.
I thought it was unique.
It could have been great, but it wasn't.
Then you had Elite Beat Agents. You remember that game?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of DS games that have terrific rhythm elements where you're tapping on the screen with the stylus. Some of those are a lot of fun. Elite Beat Agent is one of particular enjoyment that I've played before via borrowing it from Jamie.
What was that on? Do you remember?
That was the DS.
Was it the DS? Oh, there you go. And the DS, it's funny. I had Guitar Hero for my DS that came with an accompanying gimmick that you plug in a cartridge slot.
A little secondary controller.
So you literally hold your DS up like this and watch it while you're playing. It was real wacky. So with that in mind, and there was a good selection of rhythm games. I sat down and pondered which one to play, and I'll lead the charge this week, Brenner. But the choice was obvious. I watch a lot of videos of my good buddy Ravi Abbott, DJ extraordinaire, and I thought to myself, I bought this game a while back, and I've only played it a little bit. This would be a good time to get into it. So the choice I selected, as you can probably see if you're watching the feed, is DJ Hero 2. Yes. Brent, 2.
Now, why did you choose the second one over the first?
Second one I owned. That's why I don't have the
Fair
first
enough,
one.
then.
I don't have the first one. So although it's better. So
2 is better. It has a lot more music.
In case you didn't know it, y'all, I live the DJ lifestyle. I go club to club, playing gigs, spinning dope rhymes, and making the people dance. That's what I'm all about. And so for me, this is a natural progression right into the DJ Hero. So what is DJ Hero?
Apparently you don't know what a DJ is if you think you're living the lifestyle.
This is it. This is it. Watch some wrestling. Have a bologna sandwich. Roll into the club in my fine threads. And then lay down some sick beats.
Now, by club, do you mean living room?
No, club, yo. So, what is DJ Hero? Well, to explain how DJ Hero and DJ Hero 2 work, you have to kind of backtrack to all the way back to the Guitar Hero. So, these games set down a simple concept. Now, I will say, this does not apply to Brent's game. This is a whole different type of rhythm game.
Yeah.
These guitar and rock band games. So, in essence, in rock band and Guitar Hero, you've got a long line or a grid almost that comes down towards you, and there are different colors on this thing, and your guitar or whatever instrument you're playing has some matching colors. And what you want to do is hit those in time with the screen, and there's usually an additional gimmick on there to like a strummer or if you're playing drums, maybe a hi-hat or whatever that you hit to go along with what's going on the screen with visual cues. So I guess to make it very simple, hitting buttons in line with visual cues. That's the easiest way to describe it. In Guitar Hero, it was pretty much straightforward. Even if you were playing with like all the different instruments, you would just have this kind of grid that would be coming towards you with the lines and the notes and the colors on it you need to hit when they come across a certain end line. It was that simple. So with DJ Hero and DJ Hero 2, you're probably like, well, how the heck does that work? Well, it's almost exactly the same.
It is exactly the same.
With some interesting additions that you can't do in the other games. So this game came out. It was developed by Freestyle Games and published by Activision in 2010. So this is from the outfit that did Guitar Hero. Well, technically. This is not Rock Band, but I mean, again, they're pretty much the same. So, what you've got here is a game that puts you in the role of a professional DJ, and you are mixing sick beats at the club. That's what you're doing. So, how do you do it? Well, you've got your little wheel here. Now, this controller, if you're looking on the screen, I'm going to try to describe this for the radio folks. This game came with a turntable that also had basically a floating slider here and a volume control, okay, and a little button. And on the turntable, you see there's 3 different colored spots. So when the game starts, just at its simplest form, notes come down a grid, and you hit these buttons in accordance with the notes. Now, when you needed some additional stuff to do, they will have a symbol. For example, a certain line comes down with a certain symbol. That means hold the button. So instead of just tapping it, you would hold it. If something comes down the screen that has arrows pointing up and down in a big line, what that means is you're going to scratch the record, just like that. If you've got these little wave patterns in it, what they want, and there's little to the side of the line there'll be little squares. That means they want you to mess with the slider, because what you're doing is that is the point where you're literally mixing 2 records together to form this new sick tune. Okay, and so you're moving that back and forth. Then there are areas that have a line on the screen where they want you to mess with the volume, and you can fool with volume, and some of this stuff you can do anytime you want. So if it sounds complicated, it gets complicated pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I found DJ Hero 2 to be a pretty difficult game.
Yes.
Having played Guitar Hero for a long time, it really is a different type of concept in how you play the game. So, the DJ Hero supports 3 players to play at the same time, and including a vocalist. Now, I've never gotten to play with a vocalist.
No, I've only played this by myself.
But I can imagine that being a vocalist would be interesting, because the way they do vocals on the screen, it's almost karaoke style. You have the lines pop up of the lyrics, and there are basically hit patterns in them, like dots, and that sort of gives you an idea of the rhythm of that verse, of that particular line of dialogue. And then under it, in smaller lines, you can see what's coming next. You can get ready, because a lot of DJ Hero 2 stuff has rap in it. And then also, since the DJ can switch back and forth between different songs, you could really drive your singer nuts.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that, but you can have 2 competing DJs, which I think is cool, to go head to head. I always thought that was kind of neat. They've got a few different modes. They've got a pretty nice tutorial mode, that's what I went through. And it's basically this DJ who you go to basically spin school, and it takes you record by, or you go item by item through the different things that the game can do. For example, one of the things that's interesting, and I don't like this that much, but you can do it. It's a rewind ability. So you can be playing a song, and you'll see a waypoint come down the grid as it comes down towards you. And then at some point in the future, you can hit the rewind, which basically means taking the turntable and just jutting it back like that real quick. And what it'll do, it'll rewind the song back to that point and then you can score those points again.
Yeah, that's the one of the main scoring mechanisms in the game. I thought it was great.
Well, it doesn't. But I'm saying if you're listening to the tune, it doesn't make the tune sound good. Can you imagine being in a club, the DJ's throwing down sick tunes, and all of a sudden he goes boop, and just rewinds and just plays the same thing again? Not going to be good. I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah, I can very much see that happening.
I didn't like it. I didn't like that. Of course, you've got your full band. You've also got Empire mode. Empire mode gives you like it's more like a storyline. You know, there's you go through different set lists and have DJ boss battles with all the big DJs. Yo, let me ask you a question. I was thinking,
not a single one.
Now hold on. Who do you remember the first time you saw an act that had, as a member of the band, had a DJ?
No,
you don't.
Not live. No.
I do. I mean, anywhere. I remember the very first time it was Run DMC, because they had Jam Master Jay as the third member of their team, right, the group. And I thought to myself, what the hell is this guy? Because you just see a guy at a turntable. I'd never seen that before. Of course, at the time, and Run DMC was not that early, and I mean it was pretty early.
That's pretty early, dude.
But, I mean, you had a lot of guys.
Well, not in rap
before that. You know, that were using that sort of style of music. And since then, there's been a ton more DJs. The ones I like, if you ever listen to a band called Delight, I think they've got 2 DJs in that band. And I come in and out of my love for that kind of music, but I think it's fun. So anyways, you can go through these different modes. You're unloading. You're opening up different songs, which is cool. And there's tons of songs. Now, here's the thing about a song list. The songs are intertwined, and so it's kind of hard to give much of a song list. They have 83 mashups from nearly 100 songs.
Yeah, and
there are tons of artists. God only knows how many. Most of which I've never heard of. I'd heard of a couple, RZA, a few others, but and then some songs that there's plenty of times I'd hear the song and I'd recognize the song, but it's not the song you would know.
It's not the famous version of the song.
That's right. It's a remix version.
Yes.
Apparently they had top shelf DJs that came in and put these tunes together. So that's a pretty good amount of mashups that you can choose from. Of course, in the full vein of rhythm games of this time, you could also download more songs, and it would download them, and you would keep them forever, right, forever and ever until they were gone.
Until you didn't keep them.
Now, let's talk about. Of course, DJ Hero 1 was successful enough to spawn a sequel, but that much
was
said,
it though?
Yeah, it was. It did okay. DJ Hero 2. The funny thing about it is it must not have done very well, and I'll explain why in a minute. Now I've got some scores here that it picked up. On Game Ranks, it's got an 86.6. Metacritic has it at an 86 out of 100. 1UP gave it a B+. Eurogamer gave it a 9 out of 10. I mean, these are good scores. Game Informer gave it a 9 out of 10. GameSpot, which I used to go there all the time, 8.5 out of 10. So 9s and 10s across the spectrum, right? Well, that may be well and good, but I'm guessing this game didn't sell very well. The reason I think that is this. When I was back in the day, I would go into a Big Lots, which Big Lots is sort of like a liquidation store here in the States, and these things were everywhere.
Yes.
And they started out $100, then they were $50, and I think I picked up my set, and I kid you not, I think I paid for the game and the turntable. I think I paid $10.
Yeah,
they were blowing them out. They were every time I went to one of these stores, they had DJ Hero 2 specifically, but they had the first one as well.
Yeah,
and I could not, for the life of me, figure out what in the hell happened. Have you ever heard a story as to why these things just turned up? Did they make too many, or what the heck happened?
This was DJ Hero came out during the big rhythm boom, and it was more towards the tail end, but it was really about the center of the big boom.
That's right. I mean, you would think it would have done pretty well.
Well, you're taking a niche market and then finding the very smallest corner of it and trying to capture that market. And they expected that all your Guitar Hero people and your Rock Band Hero people would say, oh, it's a new type of rhythm game, I'm going to go play that, and they didn't. The people who picked this up were people who had a love for that DJ scene, that type of music. So that part of the population who also plays games is very, very small. And that's why I think this sold so poorly.
Well, I'll admit, I probably wouldn't have picked it up at full price.
No one did. Well,
no, obviously somebody bought it, but for 10 or 15 bucks, it was a steal. Every time I play it, and I'll admit I don't play it all that often, but when I do play it, I always have a good time. It does a good job. I've got the 360 version, as you can see here, and I thought it was a real fun game myself. But I like these sorts of games. But I mean, yeah, I guess I could see how people could, be either sick of it or just uninterested. And when you look at the concept of learning how to do it, and I'm no pro, the concept of doing it's very foreign to what you've been doing with Rock Band and Guitar Hero. I mean, it's a whole different animal. But that's what makes it fun. They could have just done the exact same thing, but they made it a little bit different. And adding the singing element to it, I think, would be a lot of fun. So sometime in the future, I'm going to interrupt my Rock Band night and have a little bit of DJ Hero night. And I'm going to have you rapping, man, old school.
This is my impression of the game.
Yeah.
And it's not favorable. And it's not DJ Hero's fault. It is a type of music that I don't necessarily enjoy. The gameplay itself, the elements of playing the game, the scratching the record, doing the slider between the two songs, is fun. It's fun to do it. It's very complicated when compared to something like Guitar Hero or Rock Band, but the actual playing is fun. But when you don't enjoy the music that comes out of it, like out of all the songs that you could play, I played like 6 of them, and I just played those 6 over and over because that was the music I knew, that was the music I wanted to listen to. And which brings up the worst part about this game. If you don't like the music in it, and you've got other people in the room, you're screwed. Because the big upside to Rock Band is you can have 4 idiots sitting in a corner, singing, smacking on plastic drums, strumming plastic instruments. And if the tunes that they're playing are entertaining and enjoyable and noticeable, things that people are familiar with, the other 5, 6 people in the room aren't going to get ticked off. When you're scratching records and playing rap beats that no one can relate to because it's not their type of music, you completely alienated everyone else. And then no one has fun. So I don't fault the game. I think the game itself, the concept is pretty good. I think there's a few things they could have tweaked to make it even better. But I think the music doesn't resonate with enough people to give this mainstream appeal.
Well, I'm not going to fight you on this because I agree. The soundtrack is not for everyone. Now, I'm kind of I like DJ stuff a lot. So I'm kind of down with it, man. But it's not for everyone. And I will say, you're right, Rock Band and Guitar Hero, they're going to have a broader appeal because the music is so varied. In this, you're not going to get, there's not a lot of variance in the tunes. But hey, I really dug it. So we had one user review come in from our buddy Graham W. Vebke, a good friend. DJ Hero review. This game attempts something just a little different, but like the other Hero rhythm games, you need a specific controller, and that means it cannot be played without it. I last played this game some time ago, and from my memory, it follows the Hero formula. Press one of the 3 colored buttons at the correct time, or perform crossfade action. So it's just music style that makes this different, and this game and its sequels milks that Hero formula some more. If you enjoyed DJ culture, you might enjoy this game more than I did. 6 out of 10. So there you go.
Yeah.
And I mean, crossfades and messing with the volume stuff, that's an important part of it. But like I said, as a play mechanic and as a controller, this is a top shelf controller. I mean, it's solid. You can beat a man to death with it, and it's fun for me. It's fun to play. Now, I think the game mechanic and the tunes make it one that I like to come back to. As we mentioned, the game is not super popular anymore. You can get these things for a song. You can get the whole kit and caboodle for under $20 if you look around.
Yeah.
Brent, you want to take over? What do you got?
I went a completely different direction for rhythm games, and today I want to talk a little bit about Space Channel 5, more directly onto the Dreamcast, but this also did come out for the PlayStation 2. Space Channel 5 has an interesting history, and I want to touch on it a little bit. It is created by, and I'm going to butcher this name, I apologize in advance, Tetsuya Mitsugashi. He is the brainchild behind Space Channel 5, and how he got to the game that we all know and some of us love is quite entertaining. His first game was a virtual ride simulator where you have rough control of the simulator as you fly through. It was a big hydraulic thing that they put in some arcades in Japan. And like I said, you have a control stick.
That sounds awesome.
And you kind of wiggle through the environment, kind of almost the Dragon's Lair style.
Is it like G-Lock with Laserdisc front strapped on it? You remember G-Lock?
No.
The game where you got in the arcade and you could fly.
Yeah. It is sort of like that, but the simulator is larger. It looks like a shuttle from Star Trek.
Yeah, I've seen those at the mall and stuff.
Yeah, but this is a controllable one, and it only seats a few people.
That'd be super awesome.
So that was his first entry into gaming. From there, he went on to do some of the Dirt Rally games for the Dreamcast, and he was a pretty big player over in Sega. And Sega approached him and said, listen, you're doing all this manly stuff, and it's awesome. It's making us money.
Manly.
But we need you to tap in to the casual female gamer. It's like, that's your next task. Go for it. And he was like, I don't know what to do. First of all, he didn't know there was a market for a casual female gamer. Secondly, he had no idea what they liked. So he actually went out on the streets and into arcades and pulled these people aside and said, what are you looking for in a game? And he polled men and women both. And he said the women all loved puzzle games and the men all loved being a dominant force, coming from something and overtaking or achieving an objective. That was that's what they wanted to do in gaming. So he thought, how am I going to meld these two into a sellable product? And he finally had the idea of Space Channel 5 as a Laserdisc game, or a Laserdisc type game, where you are controlling the action with your left, right, up, down in a Dragon Lair style, where you're just really telling it go left at the right time, go right at the right time. And it evolved into what is now the rhythm game of Space Channel 5. So he had to sell his team on this. And he was trying to explain the concept of, you're going to be a person, you're going to be walking around this space station, and you're going to run into these encounters where you're going to have to hit the directional pads at the right time to, make things happen. And you have to understand, this was a concept that was unknown at the time. People didn't understand what he was talking about. So he hired pantomimes to come in and act out what he was talking about. And the team loved it so much that they actually hired them onto the staff full time to help with motion capture, because it sold the concept of the game, and the team finally got it.
So you got a bunch of mimes walking around the studio there, is what you're saying. Yeah. Dance mimes.
And
That's so disturbing.
and they became an integral part of the team, and sold the concept to the rest of the programmers.
That is wacky.
Yeah. So, Ooh La La, the story of her is a little bit different, because if you go and watch the very beginning clips when this game was still in its concept stages, the Ooh La La that we have now is nothing like the one we had before. It was just more of a guy in a spacesuit. It had kind of that same airy walk, but it was different enough that it was disturbing, and it was not something. It's something we're glad changed from then to there, from now. So the early idea was to go and get Lady Miss Kyer from D-Light. You mentioned them earlier, which I thought was amusing.
Yeah.
And they wanted to take some of her music and sort of her style and add into the game, because during that time they were doing Grooves in the Heart, which is a very colorful video, and it has the same kind of style. And
the lady in that, she's a literal. She works in the fashion world.
That's right. Yeah. And D-Light was like, hell no, I'm never going to work with you. I hate you. Get out. And so it was, the Sega team was just like, okay, whatever. And they went on to do their thing. Well, D-Light sued them later down the line.
Yeah, I could see why.
And said, you asked me to use my music and to use my style, and then I said no, and then you made this. I'm suing you. You're stealing my gimmick. And the Sega team proved so much so that wasn't the case, that the concept for the character was already made. They just wanted to get her music and her approval to put her name on it to make it a bigger chance of success. So much so that they proved this, that D-Light had to pay over $600,000 in legal fees to Sega.
Now all that said, Ooh La La is very similar to the chick from D-Light. There are more than a few dissimilarities.
I will agree with that.
So but I can see why D-Light sued them, and I'm sure Nintendo, much like Mr. Burns, Sega, has a vault of lawyers that they unleash the hounds.
Well, I mean, it's one thing to lose a lawsuit. It's quite another to say, you have to pay my legal fees. You lost so bad.
Well, I'm sure whoever represented D-Light, but they probably also had a room full of lawyers. So
That's right.
It was like an epic lawyer land battle commenced.
Now, the funny thing about this is, obviously, I mean, she didn't want to be a part of Sega's system. Their concept. She didn't want to sell her music to them. Sued them, lost. You would think the bad blood would be thick.
Yeah.
Thick, right? Well, a little side note, later in 2008, she did license her single Grooves in the Heart for another game for the Nintendo Wii, and that part of the song included Ooh La La. So it kind of goes off full circle. They got what they wanted in the end anyway.
Yes, it says that in her big hit. Yeah. So I never matched up with that, but yeah, it's a good point.
So another bit of funny tidbit or bit of trivia with Space Channel 5 is Ooh La La herself, the voice actor who plays her, is uncredited in both the Japanese version and the American version. Now, in the American version, it's pretty well known that a woman that goes by the name of Apollo Smile is the voice actor, or actress, I should say.
I've actually heard of that person.
Yeah, and she plays the part. I mean, her whole gimmick, especially back in the late 90s, was I'm an anime, floaty, happy, chippy girl, and that's how she sold herself. So
that's also how I sold myself.
That's right. In the Japanese version of the game, the voice actress was unknown for many, many decades. And even to this day, there is some debate on who it is, although most people do agree that they have found who it was, and it was someone who just worked in the studio at the time. But in the credits, if you go through and watch, when you get to voice actors, Ooh La La is voiced by, it just says herself. So, kind of a weird thing to hide, but I guess they just didn't want that out there.
I like it. It's mysterious.
Yeah, and the Japanese Ooh La La was actually the dance coordinator for the game. So she is credited, or who is led to believe, she is credited in the game, just not for the voice acting role. So, what do you do in Space Channel 5, and how does it become a rhythm game? The actual gameplay is so simple, you wonder how it's fun.
It's the exact opposite of DJ Hero 2.
Absolutely. You are a reporter, a space reporter for Space Channel 5, and you are on a space station reporting the news. And there's an alien invasion that comes. And the aliens want you to dance. And they are taking human captives if they don't dance. So Ooh La La steps up to the plate, and she is commentating and reporting as she's going through the space station. And when she runs into these pockets of aliens, she has to dance and she dances so well that they kind of submit, and she zaps them, and they go and frees the hostages. So gameplay-wise, the way this works is the aliens will say something in rhythm, like up, up, down, down, and then the player has to repeat the motions in rhythm to get past that section. So simple of a game. You wonder how they can do anything with it. And it is so much fun. The rhythm, the actual concept of the game and playing the game is easy. It's super easy to understand. There are rhythms that get very difficult towards the middle and end of the game. But you can sit down and play Space Channel 5 from beginning to end 4 hours, because you're probably going to lose some. The whole game itself is only about 90 minutes long. But you can play it from beginning to end in one setting and enjoy every second of it. And the way that it does it is all about style. Ooh La La is a 1960s retro feel in a space station setting where you've got all these beautiful, vibrant colors. The music is always upbeat. Anytime you free a hostage, they will join your side, and you will walk down the hallway with you and dance with you as backup dancers. There's rival reporters that you battle along the way, and that has some of a loose sub-story with it. And every bit of the game is all about just having fun. It's wonderful music. So much so that when the game was about 70% complete, someone on the development team let Michael Jackson see it. This was on the U.S. team, because U.S. and the Japanese team were kind of co-developing this game. So one of the U.S. guys showed it to Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson loved it so much that he wanted to be in the game. He said, I give you full permission, do whatever you want with it. I want to be a part of this. This is special to me. But at this point, the game was like 85% complete. So they didn't have a role for him to fill. So they eventually went back, added his graphic, and as an alien that you battle for like one scene. He's in the game for about 5 minutes. In the sequels, he actually plays a major role because he's the head of Space Channel 5. So it's kind of interesting that he got involved just by seeing a demo of the game. And a funny story, when America called up Japan and said, listen, Michael Jackson wants to be a part of this, Japan didn't know who he was. It wasn't that they didn't know who Michael Jackson was. They thought they were talking about a person inside of Save America named Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. So they were refusing it. And eventually the American team said, no, you don't understand. This is the Michael Jackson. He wants to be part of our game. Not us pay him to be part of it. He wants to be part of it. So of course, Sega of America got on board because that's huge star power in your game.
I don't remember any billing for him, like on commercials or anything.
Nope. He did do a lot of promotional stuff in the second game, but not the first one. Yeah. So, Aaron, I know you've played this, and I know you love this game. So what's your opinion on it?
I don't love it.
What?
I don't.
I thought you loved this game.
I like it. Okay.
I
like it.
That's good enough for you.
You can see here. I bought this I bought this for the Dreamcast. I will say that you can't really see it on screen, but the cover of this, Ooh La La. Did you ever notice that it's one of those gimmick moves? I thought that was pretty slick. No, I had this for the Dreamcast and still do. It's very simple.
Yes.
And there's not a whole lot to it. And I think it's okay. I mean, you're right. It's style. Ooh La La was an awesome character.
Excellent main character. And she has been in dozens of games as supporting characters since.
Yeah, you'll still see her show up occasionally. And, of course, just on the strength of her alone, this got eventually ported over the Xbox 360.
No, it didn't. PlayStation 2.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they released like a downloadable.
Not the first one.
A Dreamcast pack. Maybe
not the first one.
But I know it came on other systems. Her figure was heavily promoted in Dreamcast commercials, just outright. Like, she's a sexy space girl from Japan, or where was she from?
With a bubbly attitude.
Bubbly attitude. She dances. She's cool looking. Of course, I look at her as sort of like this was like the next Laura Croft. You had the computer-generated girl, the sex symbol, and Ooh La La was she wasn't a sex pot, but she was just sexy enough and just cool enough. And again, we said this earlier, she was fresh. This game seemed real fresh when it came out. It was doing something very unusual.
Because having a female protagonist was huge.
And on top of everything else, she... the way the game looked when you played it was different, and the way it sounded was real. It always reminded me of like watching one of those TV aerobics workouts. Stretch your back now, up, down. That's what it reminded me of. Because she would repeat the stuff. It does get manic. I will say I only got about probably not even halfway through it.
Really?
I couldn't.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Before I got some of it just I lost the interest, to be completely honest with you.
That's unfortunate.
I mean, I thought that was okay. Like, I didn't think the soundtrack was in great shakes. I thought Parappa the Rapper had better stuff, frankly, if you want the truth. And
I think they're even.
The simplicity of it, I don't know, there's not a ton. You're right. It's almost like a quick time event over and over and over.
It's rhythm.
I mean, if you compare it to something like DJ Hero, where it's like mega complex, there's a lot of crazy. You can personalize the tunes and do the way you want them to. I mean, it is a simple game. Let's just put it that way. So with all that said, Space Channel 5 is absolutely style over substance. There's no, you can't deny that.
Oh, 100%.
But the style is top shelf.
Yep.
Like I said, Ooh La La is a great character, and if you watch the story of Space Channel 5, it's so goofy. I mean, it is goofy.
Yeah.
That it's almost endearing just from the fact that
it's so campy.
Yeah, it's mega campy. I mean, it's very Japanese. I know you said it was co-developed, but to me, it was
developed in Japan. The whole concept is all Japan.
Incredibly Japanese.
Yeah, it is.
And so, while I enjoyed it, it's not one that I go back to all often. It's fun, like, to show the kid. If you like, I think it's a great game for like kids to play to get them into the rhythm thing. Or if you just want to hear the tunes and you want to sit down, do something real, like to almost turn your brain off.
Yeah,
it's perfect for that. But it's not one I'm not gonna be like my favorite Sega game, because it's not.
No. Now, do you think it's odd that they didn't do much with this, considering how big it was at one time?
Well,
they had Space Channel 5. They had Space Channel 5 Part 2, and then they had some DS game that was a complete bomb. And a phone game.
I'll tell you my opinion, having done some research on this whole thing. Space Channel 5 was not a huge seller, all right? And so...
It was decent for Dreamcast.
And I think Ooh La La was tied to the Dreamcast name in a certain way. And so when the Dreamcast tumbled, she pretty much went down with the ship. Which is it's a shame. I mean, name any big icons that got out of the Dreamcast alive. I mean, really,
there was not many.
She went away, and I mean, and her game just wasn't strong enough. And also, if you look at what rhythm games developed into after that, like I said, that game seems
simple by comparison.
I mean, you can't see it getting another. I could see having a lot in stuff. I could see her being even someone that you could release singles around and, remixes and have her in the videos and stuff. Because she was a really awesome character.
And she's very iconic, very noticeable.
Right.
She has her own style.
Oh, you ever play a game called Jet Set Radio or Jet Grind Radio? That game, these games remind me of a little bit. And except that game the gameplay was great. But it was a very stylish game in the hip-hop thing. But that game managed to, because that was on the Dreamcast as well. That one managed to get out of there, and it sort of has that underground following, and so does this in a weird way. So they're not gameplay related; they're not really the same.
Now, but I'm going to blow your mind.
All right,
guess what's going to be coming out? The expected date is 2020.
I don't know.
Space Channel 5 VR.
Oh, okay. Wow, I can't wait to see what Ooh La La looks like.
Now this she looks the exact same.
I will say one thing before you get into that. Ooh La La spawned some of the best cosplay girls of all time. So you can't go to a video game without seeing one.
Space Channel 5 VR is a very, very small team put together by Sega. And the way they are billing this is you don't get to play as Ooh La La. You are a shadow reporter that's job shadowing her as she goes through the space station, the same space station you know and love. And meet the aliens, and you dance with her pretty much as a backup dancer is the way the game looks like it's shaping up. This was actually shown in 2017 to a small audience at one of the trade shows and got a lot of buzz at the time, but it was overshadowed by the VR buzz overall. So work on this has been steady since then, but the team is so small that it's going very slowly. People are expecting it to have a 2020 release, but no release date has actually been announced.
That's it. I will say I wanted to touch this since we talked, because this game is Ooh La La. She's the game.
Yeah.
They must have really put a lot of time into developing that character. If you look at her, and if you haven't ever seen Ooh La La, she's sort of a girl in like a super short, I don't know, almost like a hoop skirt or something. Yep. And she's got like
knee-high boots,
and she's got bands around her thighs, and she's got
gloves.
She's got pigtails,
pink hair, pigtails,
and she is a club girl through and through. She looks straight out the club, but she really has a very cool look. Like I said, they managed to strike a nice combination between sexy and appealing and approachable. And she's bubbly. That character by herself, like I said, she manages to pull the game up by its shoe straps and make it something that you can walk up and play just on the basis of seeing her walk around, sing, dance.
And that's why she has been in so many other games as a cameo character, but have not had more Space Channel 5 games made for 20 plus years.
It's amazing that with the big revolution of these rhythm games and how popular Rock Band stuff got there for a while, that they didn't tap her to do something bigger than that. That always strikes me as odd.
The used market for Space Channel 5, as you can expect, this game, you've said it didn't sell well, but it's out there and very available. You can get this in shrink wrap for less than $15. With the jewel case opened, you're looking at about $6.
Well, when I said it didn't sell well, I'm not saying it didn't sell at all. I'm just saying it wasn't like a runaway smash. It was sold okay. Yep. It was okay. Graham sent you a review on yours. If you'd like me to have a look at it.
Absolutely.
So, of course, Graham, I will say we made Graham play some crazy games.
I believe this is a review that his daughter helped write, who was a huge fan of the game. So,
according to Graham, I actually first saw this game as a rental when I shared a place with a friend who owned the Dreamcast. What a great console, by the way. I later purchased this on a PS2 and introduced it to my daughter about 3 years ago. She was almost 8 at the time, and she loved the presentation of the game. Bright characters, great music, and for the most part, is a very good button pattern style rhythm game with background music that adjusts with how well or how poorly you're doing. That's true. The only issue we ever discovered was input lag on some patterns, and you needed to repeat things and hope the lag isn't there. Otherwise, this game has my daughter's thumbs up approval, 8 out of 10.
Yeah. And really, I think the appeal, when you're talking about reaching as low as 8 and 10-year-old girls and as high as 40-plus old grizzly men, when everyone can play this and have a good time, that's pretty amazing.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing.
It's always a good time. You know what else is always a good time, Brent?
What's that?
Me. And you know what else is always a good time? For me? The Wheel.
All righty.
Now, tell the people what we added this week, Brent.
I believe you added the Dragon.
Yes. Now, we covered the Coco a while back, but I've been doing a lot of research, and also Richard Mancave did a really excellent series of videos on the Dragon. It got me fired up. So we're going to try some exclusive Dragon games, and I can't wait to give that a whirl. So, Brent, give this a whirl, if you don't mind, and try to keep the pieces intact, shall you? All right, and around she goes. And the winner is...
what is the winner, Aaron? That is Text Adventures.
Text Adventures. That's the one Brent was really wanting to play this week. So, next week, set your brains on stun. We are going to be playing the finest text adventures man has ever conceived. Now, I have quite a history of playing text adventures because when I was a kid, that's pretty much all we had, unfortunately. Brent, you were much younger. Did you get to play text adventures back in the day?
Yes.
He's not as enthusiastic, which is funny because you made that pie piece up, didn't you, Brent?
Yes.
All right. Text. It's funny going from something so visually, something that uses visual cues so thoroughly to something that was strictly the cue of your imagination. I love it. And I come from an old OTR, old time radio background, so double trouble for me. I love that stuff. So next week, Brent, we're going to take a look at text images. Come on, don't be down, little clown. Get up, it'll be fun. Who's in the chat room with you? Want to say hi to anybody?
Let me say hi to all these nice text-based people.
Yeah.
We got Pixels, Picard, Duncan Styles stopping by, Necronom, G Lake in the house. We got Graham, Mohawk Mall, Legendary Whizball. We got some Dryer Lynn, of course. Alec Mold. Did I miss anybody? I don't think I did.
Beautiful.
Evan. First guy to say hi to us this morning.
Beautiful. Now, you know, we record every Sunday morning at 9 a.m.-ish Eastern Standard Time, USA, West Virginia time. And we haven't missed a recording on 9. It's been a we're much more, it's easier to get out on 9 a.m. on a Sunday. That's for our insurance. So we usually get here on time. So thanks for joining us. Next week, it's Text Adventures. Get your brains ready. And until then, beep, 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 beep.